Good evening and welcome to the 41st Legislative District Virtual Town Hall. Tonight, you'll be hearing from State Senator Lisa Wellman and State Representatives Tana Senn and My-Linh Thai. Tonight, your lawmakers will be answering questions that have been submitted in advance through a survey. If you're tuning in now to this live stream, you can also post questions in the comments section and a staff member will get your question to our lawmakers. To get started, I'll open up for some brief opening remarks from your legislators to introduce themselves. We'll begin with Senator Wellman. Senator Wellman, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Senator Lisa Wellman, representing you. This is going into my second term as a senator. Just as for my opening remarks, I want to reflect back to election time, and the East Side legislators got together and we created a video. And that was a video right after we were talking so much about the death of George Floyd. In that video, we said, hold us accountable. And we are being held accountable. We are holding ourselves accountable. And it is really a strong part of the focus in that which we are addressing this session. So we're focused on equity. We have bills to shape the police force that is where additional training and tools and structure and use of force are being addressed. We have environmental justice, cultural competency and education. I've been dealing as chair of early learning and K through 12 education, obviously dealing with the fact that schools closed last March, but we got digital devices for all of the children or most of the children. We're working on that and help to get low cost connectivity for many. I've been working with Mia Gregerson from the House on many issues, getting broadband devices and connectivity across the state. We also focused on making sure that we take advantage of the fact that these kids have devices now and have spent a year on devices that they might not have had before. So we're taking advantage of the fact and looking at computer science. I have a bill that I'm very passionate about allowing kids to take, instead of third-year math or science, for some kids, they don't see that as something that's going to benefit them. And so they can take computer science instead of math or the other science. And I'm hoping that some kids who didn't think of that as a career will suddenly say, wow, I didn't know this was something I could do. And maybe this will be the start of a career for them. That was what happened to me. We're continuing to transform our schools with mastery-based education. And I think that really is so much so that our kids are ready for a 21st century economy. Now I'm working on stabilization, recovery, and acceleration for our school districts, our teachers, and our students. Everybody's been through quite a bit. We have to make sure that financially our school districts are taken care of, that our teachers and our students, as they come back, they've dealt with a whole lot of stuff, as you know, over this period of time. And we want to make sure that they get their feet under them, that they're stabilized and ready to get back into the classroom and get to work. And of course, I'm very concerned with one of the issues of equity is that while some people don't have as good internet as they would like, but some people don't have any. And when you see kids doing their homework in cars, in parking lots with hotspots, and you know that they don't have the advantages that others do. For me, it's an issue of equity, and I'm focused on getting kids who have nothing to be served. And then hopefully we'll address the issue of getting kids who have something even better. And we've worked on making that affordable, et cetera. So I've got a lot of other bills, going, but I wanted to give you a taste of what is happening as far as our caucus. Strong bills coming out of it on privacy on the internet, as well as climate change. We can talk about that and how we're addressing that. That's a little taste, and I'll defer to my seatmates.
Thanks, Senator Wellman. So I am Tana Senn, one of the two state representatives, and it's great to be here tonight, joined by my fabulous colleagues. I serve as chair of the Children, Youth, and Families Committee in the House. I also serve on the Local Government Committee, because as you probably know, we've got 5 cities and a town in our district, as well as 5 school districts. And I also serve on the Appropriations Committee, which is another euphemism for the Budget Committee. The House this year is really focused on four main areas: on COVID recovery, on economic recovery, on racial equity, and on climate change. So there are some issues that we aren't focusing on that we know are very important, but in every bill that we do move forward, we always talk about it with a racial lens, talking about the racial impacts and making sure it's clear that some component of those four issues are part of it. So it's nice to be focused this session and really be focusing on making sure that we are supporting our communities during this difficult time.
Yes, so hi, my name is My-Linh Thai. I'm the other state representative with my fabulous colleagues here on the call. This year, I continue to serve as a member in Civil Rights and Judiciary. The two new committees that I get to work on, one is Housing, Human Services, and Veterans, and the other is Finance. Last but not least, I am honored to be elected by my House Democrat caucus to serve as the caucus vice chair, with the focus on supporting and making sure that every members in the caucus be successful, and really it reflect into onto when the legislators successful of what they do. The outcome is that every single members in our community get to benefit from that. And thank you for being here with us.
I see a question on Washington Strong. Should we just jump into some of these questions?
Yes, Senator Wellman, we'll jump into some questions. So the first question is from Jenny. And Jenny asks you all, what are lawmakers doing about long-term care for seniors?
I think one of the things, I'm sorry, should we just jump in? One of the things we did pass a bill, I can't give you the number, that talks about concerns. This came out of our health committee and actually deals with some of the issues that arose because of things that we were doing in managed care facilities, which unfortunately in the beginning was extremely harmful in terms of perpetuating and spreading the pandemic. So there is a bill coming out of the health committee that deals with, in another situation, what is the protocol, how would we handle it, that I think is something that we'll have in our pocket. Unfortunately, there have been times when we didn't have a plan to pull out and say, under this circumstances, this is what we shall do. So I don't know, My-Linh, have you, is there anything that you did? That's your
Yes.
skill. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. So the question is really focusing on long-term care for our senior citizens. We passed that historic legislation. 2019 or 2020, the last my very first sessions in the legislature, and it's working. It's continue the systems continue to build. It should be online and available to our senior citizen, as far as putting saving and making sure that long-term care will be available to everyone in Washington state. And that is an ongoing effort.
I think it was called the long-term trust account. So
Yeah.
basically kind of like a paid family leave, but you can put, you put money in, and then later, if you need it, you can get a daily subsidy to help pay for in-home care, mainly to keep people out of nursing home and to be able to be in the home longer and independent longer as much as possible. So that was great.
I see that Ellie has asked about Washington Strong. This is 5373. This is a bill by Senator Liz Loveland. There are two very interesting bills that are moving forward right now, which is, one is a bill from Reuben Carlisle, the chair of Energy, Environment, and Technology Committee, on which I sit, as well as one from the House with Representative Fitzgibbon. Both of those appear to be moving forward. They're in the opposite houses now for consideration. And one is a cap and trade and one is a cap and invest. But there is a bill, the bill that you mentioned, Washington Strong, is one that I signed on to, I support. I don't know that it's going to move, but I really do call your attention to it because it is a blueprint for activities for industries and businesses and regions of the state that really is so thoughtful in terms of what they can do. And I am going to keep that as a blueprint for activities that I will engage in as I look at rural Washington, agriculture, communities around the state, talking with them about how they can implement, whether the state does it or not. I think with this blueprint, there's a lot of activities that they can implement that will have a very positive effect on climate change. So I don't see another question.
That's okay. We have a few questions that have been submitted via the survey, Senator Wellman. So the next question is actually specifically for Rep. Thai, but obviously you all are welcome to answer. But Rep. Thai, Kyla asks, what can you tell me about the Working Families Tax Credit?
Thank you for that question. That's awesome questions. It's as you may know, Working Family Tax Credit has been in the book since 2008. I'm honored to prime sponsor it this year. I'm one of the 3 women who continue to carry this work forward, knowing that it is a proven method for helping our working individuals and families to lift themselves up and give them support and the boost they need, especially during hard time. So Working Family Tax Credit 2021 version, it would provide the rebate back to individuals who are working, $500 per individual and $150 per child, up to 3 children per family. And because our state is not a state with income tax, we will depend on the data provided by the IRS at the federal level for individuals and family who are qualified for the earned income tax credit. Two different significant difference of this legislation compared to the previous 2008 and 2019. One is this legislation take away the phase in and will only include the phase out. And that's why when you see there's the lowest amount that an individual may get credit back is $50 because of the phase out. And the second most important is that we include those who filing federal income tax using I-10, not just Social Security number. That is about fairness and making sure that those who work and contribute to our tax system will receive the same credit that afforded to others. And I'm happy to connect more if you want to know more detail. And again, thank you for that question.
Representative
Thank you,
Senn, I was going to say, Representative Senn, there's a question on childcare that I think is just right up your alley.
Yes, I was just going to answer that. So it says, Steve asks, working moms and dads are struggling to find childcare, which can cost as much as a house mortgage payment. What are lawmakers doing about it? Thank you, Steve, for that question. It is incredible, the conversation about childcare, this legislative session and leading up to it. It seems to be in every single room, whether we're talking about COVID recovery, we're talking about economic recovery, we're talking about K-12 education, we're talking about businesses. Childcare, as you mentioned, is so expensive for families if they can even find it. And yet we know that it is imperative that families have access to childcare so that they can go to work, That means businesses can have their employees there, and it's really great for child development. So it's a win-win-win for our state to invest in childcare. So we just passed out of the House on Tuesday, actually my legislation, the Fair Start for Kids Act, and it will reduce the costs for families who are receiving Working Connections childcare, which is subsidized childcare. It will also increase eligibility for those who can get that assistance. And by doing so, we'll be making sure that childcare providers are making more, because right now most of them are not making living wage, anywhere near living wage, and most don't have health insurance even. So we need to make sure that it is in a profession people can go into, so that they stay in the field, so that there can be more childcare, and that, as well as making sure the state is paying a higher rate for its subsidized childcare, will also help bring down the cost of childcare for private pay. We're also increasing access to ECAP, which is the school's preschool program, making sure that student parents have access to childcare, and investing in that 0 to 3 space as well. So that even if you don't send your child to childcare, we want to make sure we're supporting you and your family with some early learning and early interventions, whether they're play and learn groups, or other home visiting, or if you have a child with special needs, getting you some supports early on. So I'm really excited about this huge commitment that the legislature is taking. And in fact, I'll just end with the bill. I have a co-sponsor in the Senate, Senator Claire Wilson, and our Fair Start for Kids Act is the only legislation this entire session that has a companion, meaning one in the House and one in the Senate, that has passed. And I think that shows the commitment from both sides of the rotunda, the House and the Senate, the commitment to childcare.
I just saw a question about from the PTA regarding removal of lead in drinking water in schools, and that just came to my committee, the Early Learning K through 12 Education Committee in the Senate, and so we will be hearing that bill. This is from Representative Jerry Paulette, and I think that this is probably past the time for us to really address this. While I know that this is going to cost money, when we think of the impact that exposure to lead the irreparable harm that can be caused by 2 children, it's really necessary that we do this. And so this is asking for, I think it's a five something per billion, and I've discussed this with Representative Paulette, and will be moving this out of my committee positively. I also can tell you that what came about as a result of learning about this bill and what we're trying to do is that there is no such testing that's being done in childcare centers, as far as I can tell so far. And if it is not, I think that early age from 0 to 5 is even more critical for the harm that can be done by lead. So we're going to go back and look at, if necessary, putting it into childcare as well.
That's an interesting point. I look forward to talking more about that. And just because I mentioned at the beginning, we have 5 school districts. One of the components of the bill this year, and the reason why it hasn't passed, it's been introduced for many years, and Representative Paulette has been a fierce champion for it, figured out how to make sure that school districts aren't left holding the cost of the replacements. And that's really looking at the state helping out, working together with the Department of Health, replacing fixtures, and other work. So it's the focus of the bill has really figured out how to have that fine line where the costs to the school districts are not going to be exorbitant. That other question in that same from the PTA, I will just jump on creating a statewide youth mental health tip line. And actually, I just heard that bill in my committee today, and one of our great constituents, Tanya Agar from Mercer Island, testified. Thank you, Tanya. And the idea is to create, whether it's an app-based or a text-based option for students to to report a tip if they're feeling suicidal, or if they think a friend is, or about some dangerous activity that might be happening, a plan that they know about. Just an anonymous tip line to make sure that we're giving people all the options to stay safe, get support when they might not be willing to reach out themselves. So looking forward to moving that forward.
Great. Thank you all. I do want to remind everyone that tonight's event is a live virtual town hall with the 41st District, and you can submit questions in the comments section. So the next question is from Charles. Charles asks, national news media includes Washington State as one in which voter suppression bills have been introduced. Are there such bills? Who introduced them, and what's their status?
I'm so proud to be to live in Washington State. I think if anything, we are expanding voting as much as possible. Last couple of years, we passed legislation to make sure that youth could pre-register. So when they get their driver's license and they're 16 or 17, they can just register. Same day voting registration. Of course, we have all mail-in ballot. This year, the big voting rights work is around making sure that those who have a felony in their history are allowed to still vote. And so right now you have to have paid back all of your fines and fees before you can vote. And now we're making sure you have left incarceration and you've served your time. We don't want to give you more of a kind of a poll tax, if you will, to vote, but you're in our community. We want you to vote.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Mark. Mark asks, I support all the police brutality bills to make things safer for people of color. Where are all those bills, and what do you think will end up becoming law?
I can take that question. Thank you, Mark. I have the honor to serve in the leadership group in the House, on the House side, working on police reforms and accountabilities. So we have many important bills from both houses. Let me see. House Bill 1310 is a legislation to clearly articulating the standards of use of force. That would certainly help as far as when we have a standards. That's where all the training is gonna be when it's come to how police can use force. And that one is out of the House on its way to the Senate. Mm-hmm. The second one is House Bill 1054, and that specifically speak to tactics, what can and cannot be used. That too is also got out of the House and on its way to the Senate.
And sorry, when you say tactics, just so you know, so like banning chokeholds.
Banning chokeholds.
That's one of the ones that I think people would recognize the most.
Exactly. Then on the Senate side, we have Senate Bill 5066. Let's see, that one requires officers to intervene when they see someone, especially someone in their own force, violating someone's right or using unnecessary force. I believe that one is also out of the Senate and on its way to the House. When it's come to transparency, House Bill 1092 and its companion, which is Senate Bill 5259, making sure that we get accurate pictures about how and when the force is being deployed by police officers, and making sure that their system of accountability be transparent and data is being provided. And there are three more important bills left. Number one is House Bill 1267. That one coming out from the task force by the governors, which create an Office of Independent Investigations. Senate Bill 5051, there's a lot of them, so my apology, I don't remember them off of my head. Is that one expand ways for problem officers to be removed from the profession by modernizing process of peace officer decertification and increase community input at the Criminal Justice Training Commission. And the last one coming out from the Senate is Senate Bill 5055. That is to ensure the arbitration process cannot be used as a shield against accountability.
So we're busy.
We great. Are. I see that Holly Harris, hi Holly, it's been quite a while, asks about deliberations on adding behavioral health first responders to the police force. And there is a bill coming out of the Senate, or has come out of the Senate, that really speaks to changing the nature of the police force by encouraging, there's a rating system. So you were getting special points if you came from the military. And I think that's shown in the type of activities that we see the police engage in. That's an area that they're very comfortable in. But we also think that people who are social workers, who have had background in behavioral health issues, should be given points for as they apply to the police service. And we think that will help provide police forces with talent and capability that they currently don't have as much of. We don't want them to handle all of those things, but it is changing really how the police will work. And I think it's a positive thing. And if I
see, yeah, and I also see, I mean, in the same strain of police accountabilities and reforms, Allison asked if I can give a little update on why House Bill 1202 failed to pass the House. And anytime we do change, it's really difficult. As I have shared with you, there is a whole lot of police reform and accountabilities legislation this year. 1202 is at the get-go, we already knew this is going to be a really tough bill because it deals directly with qualified immunity. There are a lot of conversation to be had, and for me, who honored to be the prime sponsor for this legislation, as a non-lawyer, I had the opportunity of 6 months sleeping, eating, drinking, breathing, talking about 1202, and I think that giving a little more time to help many stakeholders understand what this legislation is about and why it is important as part of the entire restructure of our policing, I believe we will get there. And once again, thank you, Allison, for the question.
And Rep. Thai, if I might, just to for those who might not know what 1202 or qualified immunity is basically allowing somebody to sue a police officer because of use of force or other things like that. And so qualified immunity is what they have.
I wouldn't say to sue a police officer. It's create Washington specific civil cause of action.
Thank you.
And it's specifically the difference between Washington and Colorado is that police officers is always being indemnified by their employer. So that's why I say it's rather complicated.
Yeah, no, thank you for that clarification. I was just trying to frame for people who didn't know what 1202 was or qualified immunity, what we were talking about, but exactly what you're saying, we need to understand the correct words. I obviously didn't have it down, so thank you for that.
And I do think you're going to have something coming from the Senate which does address it. If I might, I'd like to go back to one of the the comments that I saw earlier on from the Washington Indivisible Network, which asked me about my broadband bill and the broadband bill that is coming from the House on unrestricted broadband. Couple of years ago, my bill 5511 created the broadband office in the state of Washington because I wanted someone waking up every single day to make sure that we were connected. And at the time, my focus had been on economic development, which I've spent a great deal of time on in the state of Washington, across the state, as well as telehealth, seeing how important that is and becoming even more so. But obviously, with COVID instantly overnight, we understood its value as far as education is concerned, and how vital it is for our children to have that exposure. And it's the world. And frankly, with the broadband office, we hired Russ Elliott, who has done an amazing job of bringing a strategy and a focus in our state. So I am following Russ's lead, and my bill is to take us and say, we have to focus on people who have nothing. They do not have any kind of connectivity. By creating initially, by opening the market up, after 35 years of business, I can tell you the money goes where the market is. And it's happened state after state. It's happened in area after area. When you have unrestricted, go for it. They go where the money is, and that will be, you'll have more people in Seattle, you'll have more people in Spokane, but it will not go to the tough areas that have they're tough because it's hard to get there. It's expensive to get there, and they need the retail authority to encourage them to move to those areas by getting state and federal funding. And so my bill does not allow unrestricted. I'm not for unrestricted. I want to know that we're serving kids that have nothing. For me, it's definitely an issue of equity. I'm working very hard to make sure that kids in our urban areas have better internet, have connectivity. In fact, we lobbied hard with Comcast over this last year, where their Internet Essentials package, which was $25.3, for a family, 3, 4 sitting in a home. It was hard to keep connections for the $10 a month for their program, which was great, but nevertheless, $25.3 wasn't enough. They went back and they went to their corporate offices, and now they're giving $55, which is so much better in terms of connectivity. So we can work it many different ways, but initially I'm going after kids who don't have internet connection at all.
I have to say it's pretty interesting in the legislature, the issue of connectivity comes up on a daily basis as fellow legislators who are zooming in from all over the state are, at different times dropping off, losing their video, but still having audio, or having to call back in or Zoom back in. So it definitely keeps it front and center for all of us as legislators. I know there is sorry, go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I was just going to prompt the next question. So we've actually gotten a couple of questions throughout this time about ranked choice voting, House Bill 1156. Eric and Donald both asked where the legislation is now.
Thanks, Eric and Don. So 1156 is not moving out of the House. So it stayed in the Rules Committee, meaning it was not pulled to the floor for a vote. I think there was lots of energy and lots of interest around that bill. I think there also were a variety of questions about the bill. I think, as both Senator Wellman and Representative Thai said, that there's kind of like only this so much change and new ideas that people can act on quickly. And people had a lot of questions about how it would work if it was countywide. What happened if somebody crossed county lines or city lines, or if they were on 2 ballots, or if they were on, what time of the year, is there a primary? Is there not a primary? How much is it going to cost? Why was in Tacoma? They tried it once and they had a really bad outcome. So there just were a lot of questions to be asked. And so it will take some time to educate legislators. So it is not moving this legislative session, but I have no doubt it'll be back.
Great, thank you. This next question is for Senator Wellman. Senator Wellman, Tom asks, what is your position on the sugar beverage tax, Senate Bill 5371, and does it have a chance?
Well, I haven't given much consideration to that. I am sitting on a tax structure work group, and that's a 4-year project. We're already 1 year into it. It is led by Representative Noel Frame. And I think that this is really important for us to understand the state. We have a whole lot of little taxes all over the place in the state of Washington. And very frankly, I am not necessarily in favor of throwing another little tax out there or changing little taxes and whatever. If you want to talk about big taxes, which I'm sure at some point we'll get to as far as capital gains this evening, but I think that we really need to take a look at the total tax structure. We have to really see that it's fair and that we can make sure that everybody is paying their fair share and move forward in a positive way. So I'm not particularly enamored of a sugar tax.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Maria. Maria has asked, can you please include digital infrastructure in the public bank bill so our schools can provide digital education for students as part of our workforce development COVID recovery?
So I have been working for the last 3 years on what was a public bank bill. We're not allowed to call it a bank right now, but we are definitely, having been on both on the Community Economic Revitalization Board for 7 years and the broadband and the Public Works Board for 3 years. Infrastructure is foundational to any kind of activity. You have to have water, you have to have sewer, you have to have, and now we do believe you have to have connectivity. And so there is nothing that would mean that we could not help fund our digital infrastructure through what was the public bank bill, or is now this cooperative, whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called, but we are moving it forward. We really should be able to take the money that we have in the state of Washington and be able to leverage that money. The banks are getting money at a half a point. We certainly can do a lot with the money that's available out there working for the state, across the state. It's jobs, it's all the kinds of things. It's quality of life. So thanks for the bill, for the little shout out for the public bank bill. Appreciate it.
Great. Our next question is from Jim. Jim has asked, can you talk about how House Bill 1220 on emergency shelters and affordable housing will impact Mercer Island?
I am happy to respond to that one quickly, or first. So House Bill 1220 came out of the Local Government Committee. And basically, in a nutshell, it's about planning and making sure that cities and counties are planning around homeless issues and around housing issues. So for low, very low, moderate, and middle income housing options. And the question I think you're asking, how will it impact Mercer Island? Mercer Island will have to do some planning. That's probably the biggest impact it will have. I think some of the question about emergency shelters and affordable housing, basically the legislation says, if you have zoning that allows for a hotel, for instance, then you can't discriminate as to who sleeps in that hotel. So you can't say, I want to have a hotel that charges $1,000 a night, but I don't want to have a hotel that hosts homeless families. And so that's in general, it's about planning and making sure that all communities are looking at how we are dealing with everybody who needs homes in our communities. Again, from the very low income and unhoused to everybody else, and make sure that there's fairness across the board, that you can't discriminate on the person, but you have to zone for the type of housing, not for the person who might occupy it.
Great. And as a follow-on, Robert has asked, he's written in with some concerns about not having long-lasting solutions on homelessness and affordable housing. Why does this problem get so little traction, and what do you suggest should be done?
I can probably speak to that. I mean, if it's in the area of general as an entire state, the fact is the issue of homelessness is not an urban area issues. Is an issue everywhere. 5 years ago, when I first served as school board director for Bellevue School District, I've learned from school board directors in Yakima how school board directors trying to figure out providing shelter for students and family of students during the winter time. And that was 5-6 years ago. And to both of our surprises, to their surprise that Bellevue have homelessness, and to my surprise that Yakima has homelessness. And so the reality, this is a statewide issues, and it's require state to act upon it. The fact is, we have put in the housing trust fund. We continue to make sure that we respect local government, because understanding that local government knows the issue locally, and engaging with the community they serve to find out exactly what the needs are to provide these services for the needs of local community. At the same time, we have learned that sheltered or temporary shelter does not help eliminate homelessness. It has to be permanent housing as the solution. So with that, we create also the opportunity for public-private working together, tackling these issues. It seems that it's keep growing, and the pandemic does not help the situation. When evictions moratorium lifted, we will see a whole lot more. And so this is certainly the top priority as we are looking into how to resolve some of these concerns across our state. And so I'm looking for your support in that work as well.
And I think that we shouldn't, if we're talking about homelessness, we also have to talk about our behavioral health or mental health situation in the state of Washington. We certainly don't have the beds. We don't have the places to really handle the number of people that really are in dire need of behavioral health supports. And so that's really part of the solution as well. I don't want to leave that out. I see a question. Oh, okay. I was looking at a question on vaccine prioritization, and do you want us to talk about that? Or I don't know.
Go for it. Yes. I believe it's Christine. Christine has a question about vaccine prioritization for critical infrastructure essential workers.
And that is still in the first phase. 1A and B for critical infrastructure essential workers. They have been prioritized from the get-go. They and medical workers to be getting the vaccines. We did not have the kinds of vaccines available to us initially. That is certainly changing quite a bit now with the new administration and their focus on not only putting out contracts to various pharmaceutical companies to get that vaccine, but also creating a distribution system which will make it much more available. In the state of Washington, we are now at 1 million vaccinated, and we're doing 45,000 a day, which is, we're finally getting to something that, that feels like we're on our way changing the situation at last. And I just heard that President Biden has announced that the vaccination prioritization will be completely opened by, I think it's May. I think May 1st, the day, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And we have been asking the governor to kind of prioritize teachers, because that has been, for one reason or another, that is a game changer for getting kids back to school. And we know that how much all of you want that. And so we want to move in that direction.
All right. Our next question is from Kathy. Kathy wrote in to ask, are you for the capital gains tax for the state? Isn't this a backdoor for trying to get a state income tax?
Well, I'll put my 2 cents in there. I already pay the state income tax. I don't know if you know that or not, but I've been paying it for 15 years. And that is, as somebody who has been in high tech, I'm an independent consultant. I go out and I use my brain, and I talk to people, and they pay me money, and I pay a tax on that. And that's called a B&O tax. And I consider that's my income. I consider that an income tax. So I think we've already got one. It is just called a B&O tax. In any event, as far as the capital gains tax, I'm not going to be, unfortunately, one of the 5,000 people in all of King County who would be eligible to pay this tax, because I just don't make $250,000 a year from my investments, darn it. And I think that the tax, which is in the House bill, or in the Senate bill in any event, is aligned towards focusing on paying or helping to pay for childcare, and which will benefit not only every business that employs anybody from 18 years of age to 45 or 50 years of age. And we are now paying for their employees to be able to go to work, because we'd be helping with childcare costs. But I think that's really critical. And I think it's very well carved out as far as how it's been set up. So I am in favor of the capital gains tax.
I am as well. In fact, I introduced the capital gains tax legislation in the House this year, and we did have some different policy components, but we worked closely with the Senate and made sure that we worked together. And again, the investments that it is going to fund, childcare, needless to say, is something that I'm very excited about. And the second part of the question was, is it, or how is it like, or not like an income tax? And it's capital gains is a voluntary tax. You make the extraordinary profits when you sell a asset. Unlike a compulsory tax, when you live in your house every year, you pay a property tax. So there's, it's a different kind of tax. It's an excise tax, and that's how it's differentiated. Also, it's based on you selling a product. We exempted all real estate. Your 401k is exempt. All the people in our district who have cattle and agricultural land, that is all exempt. And if you sell a small business that grosses under $10 million a year, you're exempt. So we anticipate only about 15,000 people in the entire state would pay a capital gains tax, and that those dollars will be critical to be making community investments that our communities need.
And as somebody who serves as a member of the Finance Committee, I get to hear capital gain tax and get to participate in conversations, deeper understanding and debate within the committee members on capital gain, and very happy to be able to vote for capital gain tax this year. We keep talking about regressive tax in Washington. We keep talking about having to build our economy, our strong, amazing economy. And in fact, our Washington state get named second year consecutively in the row as one of the best states to live in, to work in, and to move business to. it's about time that we are looking for different ways to support our economy, build a strong state revenue, not on the back of the people who work the hardest to support us. And if anything, as evident during the pandemic, if we continue to rely on use and sale tax as our main source of revenue, we would be in a lot of hurt. And for many of those reasons, my vote was a yes vote for capital gain tax.
Thank you. So that was our last question of the evening. Thank you to everyone who has submitted a question. I'm now going to turn it back over to the legislators for closing remarks. Senator Wellman, would you like to begin?
Well, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed this evening. And thank you all for not only participating and asking your questions, but being interested in what we're doing. I hope that you will take the opportunity to tune into TVW. Or I think that there's a YouTube channel, but I'm not sure how to get there or what's going on there. But I think that you're really going to get to see your government in action in a way that you haven't before. You don't have to come down to Olympia to participate in a hearing. If you have something to say on any particular bill, please do that. I also, before I close, I do want to say that there's been a lot of challenges in getting the vaccine. And so I know we have some ideas for you, and the Department of Health certainly has a website. But my team has been working really hard to make sure that we have a list of all the current available sites and whatever. And if you're interested in getting the one sheet that we have, please send just an email into my office and we'll get that out to you. It's been very, very helpful for a lot of people, and it really covers the entire state. So I hope we can help you with that. And I hope that if you have any additional questions that we didn't get to answer and that I can answer, or I guess any of us, please let us know.
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in to be part of the democratic process. That has been so fundamental to this year in particular, making sure people were voting, were engaged, had access to voting, had access to their legislators. And frankly, one thing we didn't talk about was gun legislation that I'm excited to anticipate that we will pass a piece of legislation to ban guns at the state capitol. And that is really all about making sure that people have access to their legislators and to democracy without the threat of violence. Just like what we saw on the federal level and the state capitals around the country, we want to make sure everybody has access in a safe way to the democratic process. So we are, so that is one aspect we didn't talk about, but something that definitely is fundamental to make sure that everybody has access to us. We want to hear from you. Knowing the questions that you're interested in, the issues that you're interested, makes us better legislators, and we're really interested in that. I will just also close with, I know this has been a tough time for a lot of people in our communities, whether you've lost a loved one, whether you have been ill yourself, whether your kids are frustrated or you're frustrated with your kids at home or back at school. Whether you're struggling to find childcare or that vaccination. And I wanted to, let you know that I recognize things have not been easy, and we're thinking of you, and we're trying to do our best to make sure that our restaurants can remain in business, that those who are unemployed get their assistance or can take that paid leave if they need it. So lots of work that we are doing just to address the pandemic, and just know that we are thinking about you and appreciate you being here tonight.
And I will do a +1 with everything that Senator Wellman and Representative Senn have said. For the interest of time, if the way we communicate with you is not helpful, let us know what would be a better way to communicate with you. In the end, we wanted to hear your voice. That's what it meant for us to represent you. And I too thank you for tuning in tonight and reading out emailed, newslettered, and following so many important legislations this year and going forward. Thank you and good night.
So that's all the time we have this evening. Thank you so much for attending and for submitting questions for our lawmakers. If we did not get to your question, you can directly contact Senator Wellman, Rep. Senn, and Rep. Thai's offices with your comments. Their contact information will appear on the screen right after this. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening.